what's up, everybody? January 22nd, 2021. I am back. How many times this week? Welcome, everybody. Hope your Friday night is doing pretty good. This is the Don Tony Show. I want to thank you for tuning in. SmackDown just went off the air less than 5 minutes ago. Not a bad show. You know, I think we all expected no match to take place between Adam Pearce and Paul Heyman. What was the theme for this week? Card subject to change. Not too bad, not too bad. We'll talk about SmackDown. We'll talk about a couple other news tidbits for today. If you have not had a chance to check out last night's Q&A, chat, ask me anything, a little bit of everything. Excellent show yesterday. I mean, we went from really serious convo to some hilarious laughs, played some retro audio from about 18 years ago. We have 2 deaths to report. Neither one really had much of a wrestling tie, although both did appear on wrestling shows in the past. But before I do anything else, I want to give a special shout out to everybody who is joining me live tonight. And as you could see, everybody on the screen could see, some of the... I know Mish came up with the idea of calling you all the nasties, and that is a compliment. Got a couple of responses regarding the idea of calling you all just a bunch of mixed nuts, all shapes and sizes, all different race and countries and whatever. I don't know. I haven't figured out what we should call you guys yet. I'm thinking of it. I'm thinking. By the way, I want to get into a couple of quick mentions tonight. The first person, one of the greatest baseball players to have ever played the game, died. And, look, I am not diminishing his career. It's insanely impressive. But 86 years old... Jesus Christ, if you told me that I would live to be 76 years old, I probably would be fine with that until I turned 75. 86 years old, he lived a fabulous life, and that is the passing of Hank Aaron, Henry Aaron, to me, the true home run king. I was just a child in the 70s, too young to experience really anything of Hank Aaron. I mean, any of you have seen my baseball collection. I take pride that I have a lot of Hank Aaron games from the late 60s, early 70s, which honestly was more past his prime, 1974, his career. But I'll tell you this much. I was searching statistics just to get an overview. I mean, we all know how many home runs he's had, and we remember, him passing the Babe. Well, a lot of us, well, you may not have been alive at that time, but we know what went down. That man went through tremendous racism. I mean, you talk about racism today, and look, any racism is fucked up. Doesn't matter if it happened 100 years ago, 40 years ago, 40 hours ago. But, being a baseball fan and learning about some of the players that I was too young to experience, and the only thing I could remember with Hank Aaron is when he was chasing Babe Ruth's home run record, all these racist threats. In fact, I have no notes in front of me. I remember this clear as day. When he broke Babe Ruth's home run record, his mother came down the home plate. If you have ever watched that footage, you know what I'm talking about. And if you've never watched that footage, you will see her just holding on to her son, and it would look like such a beautiful moment. And Hank Aaron revealed, not too long after that, of course, his mother was proud of him, but she was also somewhat shielding him because of all of the threats and everything that went on. But we'll move on because I know a lot of you out there probably have not heard much other than, what other people have said over the years, but I'll leave you with this. I was going over his stats and I found a beautiful display of his year-by-year stats. Even if you're not into baseball, you got to be impressed with this. Check this out. You see this? This is his baseball stats from 1954 to 1976. And as you see, that anything that is kind of dark orange, that means he was in the top 5 of Major League Baseball for that year. I mean, look at that. Sometimes you have 2, 3, 4 great years. Look at this man's career. Games played appearances, okay, fine. But hits, you think of today, people that hit tremendous amounts of home runs. Frank Thomas is one of the rarities, and you got George Springer and a few others that will hit a lot of home runs, but hit for average as well. I mean, look at those stats. In the hits department, his average on base percentage. Just an absolute wonderful man. I tell you, I put him almost in the same category as Jackie Robinson because of the amount of hate that they had to experience playing the game. But there is a stark difference between Henry Aaron and Jackie Robinson. For anybody that has followed or took the time to learn both of their careers, Jackie Robinson, once he retired from baseball, you could see that there was a lot of venting going on, and he came across as extremely bitter. And, I think he had every right to. But Hank Aaron, no matter what, even with Barry Bonds passing him, I'll never forget that game when Barry Bonds hit the home run, and he went like this, and then Hank Aaron was on the screen, and you see Barry Bonds, he's like this, but you knew Hank Aaron was not going to be there live, and he always kept his head held up high, and just a wonderful man. Never got to meet him. So Hank Aaron, that's why I said earlier today, rest in peace, King. He truly is, in my opinion, the home run king. So rest in peace. And he did make an appearance once or twice on WCW pay-per-views. I think a Slamboree. Wasn't there like a Slamboree? It might have been 1993, around there, 93, 94, it might have been. And he made an appearance. Now, another death that I am going to pull up my notes, because this is something you got to really see things like this and put COVID-19 into perspective. Somebody else died, most notable for being in the UFC world, made one appearance in pro wrestling. Anybody that grew up an ECW fan in the 90s remember this storyline very well. And a couple of days ago, Paul Varelans. You remember the shoot fight between Paul Varelans and Taz? 1996. I think this was Hardcore Heaven 96, where Paul Varelans was standing in the crowd, and him and Taz kind of have a confrontation. This guy was a fucking beast. This guy, I mean, look, his UFC record was not all impressive. I think he was 9-9 at the most. But, back in 1996, this guy was a monster. But as the years went by, after his UFC career, he bounced and he did a few other things, but he got huge. I mean, he was a huge man already. But this is a picture from about 5 years ago. Now, keep in mind, if you look at the left, Gary Goodridge, in that photo, Gary Goodridge is about 275. Paul Varelans was probably hitting 340, 350 in size. And, I mean, and this is the worst part about it. He was 51. I know that's an age of a lot of you out there, and that's pretty close to me as well. And what happened with him, and this is what's so sad about it, because he documented it online. He caught COVID about 6 weeks ago. And he caught COVID along with his girlfriend who was living with him at the time. Now, yes, heavier than most of us out there, but you got to just picture this. This is a 50-year-old guy, 51 years old. And although a bigger man, was still pretty healthy. He thought he had the flu, and he waited a few days, got tested positive for COVID. And then he actually documented on his Facebook page that the day after, he felt like he was having a UFC fight and somebody punching him in the kidney, but not stopping, over and over and over and over and over and over. That's how bad COVID was kicking his ass. Went to the hospital December 15th and put on a ventilator and was also put on a medically induced coma to try to stabilize him so they could try to get him in check. He only recovered about 70% of his breathing, never got off the ventilator, developed infections, and he died a few days ago. So that just shows you, it affects everybody so differently. That's why, and look, I'm not going to make this about me, but the reason why I bring up stuff about me is because everybody joining me here, whether it's live or you're checking out the shows later on, whether it's video or audio, we're family. There's a lot of you out there that I may have never talked to before. You may never come public and, say hi, but we're family. And, some little things may help someone here and there. And, when I got the first shot, the vaccine early this week, it was very emotional. And, you get the jerk-offs on social media, especially on Twitter, like, oh, what are you so emotional for? It's a shot. Motherfucker, the last thing I want to do is see my mother or my father get COVID, and then they're 6 feet under. You think I even want to take a chance of me getting COVID? I guarantee you, no matter how heavy Paul Varelans had gotten, he was probably in much better health than yours truly before he caught COVID. I am not going to play Russian roulette. I'm not going to play Russian roulette and take the chance of getting COVID. So, I wanted to make mention of him. I know just one appearance, but for all you UFC fans out there, go check out UFC 9. Because he was on that card, and I also believe one of the greatest UFC matches of all time was on that card. Dan Severn versus Ken Shamrock. So I wanted to make mention because other than maybe Meltzer, have you seen anybody mention it? No, I don't think so. So I always try to make mention, some people. As much as I can, obviously. I obviously don't want to, bore you to death as well, but I thought those two were worthy of mention. So, but rest in peace, Paul Varelans, 51 years old. So, now, I need a favor from those that are live with me right now in the chat. If you can just monitor the 205 live results for tonight, because we do have two important Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic matches going down. Daivari and Tony Nese versus Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. You heard it yesterday. We talked about it. That is something that we wanted to see happen for a few weeks. We wanted Ciampa and Thatcher in the Classic. We got it. Now I hope they win the whole thing. And if they don't, I want MSK to win it. But we also have Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, and they're taking on, I can't remember the other girl's new name. Someone in the chat will bail me out. But remember yesterday we were talking about Priscilla Kelly, and we didn't know if they were going to pronounce her name as Gigi Dolin or Gigi Dolin. And yesterday I went on this whole rant. Well, actually, no, I did it Wednesday. And I said, Gigi Dolin sounds so generic. You know, it's gonna, especially the way she looks. She looks kind of exotic yet erotic. She looks like she's international, and I just like Gigi Dolin. I am Gigi Dolin. Obviously, she doesn't sound like me, and I don't sound like her. Cora Jade, thank you very much, Psycho. Cora Jade is her partner. But earlier today, Priscilla Kelly cut a promo for about 40 seconds with her tag partner announcing their match tonight. And Priscilla Kelly said her new name. And it is pronounced Gigi Dolin. I don't know, man. Look, I'm not going to complain. But I just think Gigi Dolin sounds more exotic. Gigi Dolin. Gigi Dolin. I don't know. But I want to know the results for today. I want to know the results. I mean, Thatcher and Ciampa have to advance, obviously. But I want to see if they have the newbies advance or if Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae advance. I think Hartwell and LeRae would advance. So, yeah, so I figured I'd mention that. And as always, as I say, if you're enjoying the show, I appreciate it if you smash that like button. That tells YouTube that you recommend this show to others, and the more you do that, the more they recommend it, and the more it pisses off the haters. And the more you support the shows, the more I'm here for you, as you notice. But today, yeah, Benjamin, I was so happy, man. I mean, I don't want to repeat stuff from yesterday, but if you're going to pull my leg, if you're going to pull my arm and try to get me to force the issue, all right, just let me enjoy 45 seconds of audio and video. This was from Wednesday, and I'm obviously not going to pain you and pull clips from last week or the week before. But you remember last week, and I gave AEW credit. We were talking about NXT and putting people on TV that's just channel changers. And after a while, you got to say, look, you know, we've tried, but this person or team is not getting over. And I gave AEW credit last week. I said they don't take people that should stay on Dark or maybe shouldn't even be on Dark, and they don't put them on Dynamite. And the example I gave was Peter Avalon. A few hours after we did Wednesday Night Dynamite last week, they announced Peter Avalon is wrestling on Dynamite. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So deja vu happened again this past Wednesday, but this one we wanted. Is the men's side? Yeah, Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. They will be facing the winners of Ashante Adonis and Desmond Troy. Now, after Karrion Kross's match with Ashante Adonis today, I don't even know if that team is going to continue. I'd love to see WWE throw a swerve and put another team in there to take on Tony Nese and Daivari. Psycho loves Timothy Thatcher. I'm telling you, man, the guy really can work. He really can. And the Fight Pit match tonight was phenomenal. It was a flat-out brawl. I mean, shit made sense. I mean, the way they fought is the way the fight pit match should be. And again, I wish it would have happened weeks earlier because I think Thatcher and Ciampa as a team in the Dusty Classic I would have loved to have seen. I like it. I like it. A lot of little things like that make me a very happy person as far as NXT. In fact, I got to be honest with you. Little things like that is the reason why. And yes, we do this every week now. We do it on Fridays. We look back at Raw, NXT, AEW, and SmackDown. And I basically look back at the week in review, and I base my emotions, my mood, towards Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And for a second week in a row, my mood remains the same. I enjoyed Wednesday night most this week. I enjoyed SmackDown tonight, a little bit less, but I enjoyed it. And Monday Night Raw, especially what they did with Alexa Bliss and Asuka. Alexa Bliss transforms into the Fiend. Asuka transforms into mush. Into mush. Simply because Alexa Bliss goes like this. Asuka's like... She did like the standing version of Mia Yim when she was like floating around like a fish in the ring with Retribution that time. That is my mood this past week with wrestling. Now, I will let everyone know tonight's show will definitely be the shortest of the week. We don't have much to get into. I don't have the quarter-hour ratings yet for AEW NXT. Everything was delayed a day because of Martin Luther King, the holiday. Now, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I honestly don't understand why everything was pushed back. I could understand if AEW and NXT aired on the holiday or the next day was the holiday and, you know, they don't have full staff to basically get all the numbers out. But Martin Luther King Jr. Day was 2 days earlier. So I don't know why that affected bringing out the numbers on Thursday. But we didn't get them. Probably get them tomorrow. So I'm not I'll probably hold them for next Wednesday's show. And because I really want to see the breakdown. I want to see the trends, especially the viewership for the Inner Circle's main event, which I thought was very disappointing. But yeah, Cesaro continuing the winning streak. You know, we talked about it last week. Props to Daniel Bryan. Props to Daniel Bryan for, you could see his influence on the shows. You could definitely see his influence. You're seeing more on SmackDown, even though they've done it with AJ Styles, taking on Elias, which is technically two heels. But you could see Daniel Bryan is taking the approach that was very similar to Ring of Honor and some other feds, where you would have a heel take on a heel. You know, if you're going to do it, probably the best time to do it is with LED screens, you know, because you're not going to do it in a live crowd where the fans don't know, who am I supposed to cheer for here? I'll never forget. And I brought this up a couple of times over the years. You know, when I was a little kid, I would go to the Ridgewood Grove Arena, early 80s, 83, 84. And once in a while, you'd have cards subject to change, like tonight's SmackDown. And what would end up happening is you would have Ivan Koloff take on Iron Mike Sharp. Now, in the, 83, around that year, Ivan Koloff was a huge heel. Iron Mike Sharp was an annoying heel. No. Iron Mike Sharp, trust me when I tell you, everyone, you never, ever wanted to sit front row with this guy wrestling on the show. Maybe in Madison Square Garden because there's so much noise, but when you do it in a building with 300 people, I'm not kidding. My grandmother, you've seen pictures of her, she was like 4'11" and 185 pounds, maybe heavier. And, sometimes she would sit. I mean, I kind of remember it, and she'd be a little tired because she had worked during the day. And she'll be just like taking in the wrestling and just relaxing. And then Iron Mike Sharp would come out for his match, and he'd roll out of the ring, and the referees tell him to go back in the ring, and all of a sudden Iron Mike Sharp right next to my grandmother be, no. That motherfucker, seriously, what an annoying motherfucker. But he knew how to get under people's skin. So I am not throwing shade to Iron Mike Sharp. But we would get heels versus heels. And it would be confusing. We didn't know who to cheer for. It felt, as a little kid, it felt like Bizarro Land. You didn't want to cheer for Iron Mike Sharp. You certainly didn't want to cheer for Ivan Koloff. Especially the older people out there that remembered when Ivan Koloff beat Bruno Sammartino. Oh my God, that's sacrilegious. So I don't think Ivan Koloff could have, the building could have went on fire, and Ivan Koloff could have been the only person with the hose and putting out the flames and rescuing kids and throwing them out of windows and stuff, and everybody would still be like, fuck you, you beat Bruno. I'm not exaggerating either, because at that time, a lot of people still believed that wrestling was, Copper the Great. Copper, very good. Very good. Thank you. From a proud patron and a member of the Donzilla Army, thank you very much, my friend. That's nice, man. I appreciate your support. not only on Patreon, but over here. I'm having a ball. You know, we were talking about it yesterday. You know, we're now 22 days into January, and, you know, I really cannot complain. I really can't. I mean, I pray for the country. I pray for all of you out there, and I'm not just pandering. I'm not just trying to be, you know, just like what's would be the right way to call it. You know, I'm not trying to be cliche. You know, I see a lot of you out there writing on how worried you are about bills, or worried about health, or worried about family members, or worried about this and worried about that. You know, I truly do pray. I mean, I don't sit in my bed and say, Lord, please make sure everybody is taken care of. Please, because if anything happens to people like Copper the Great, I'll never get another super chat ever again. So please, Lord. No, but I'm trying to be lighthearted here. No, but I mean, and honestly, no bullshit. And we'll get right back to what we were talking about. That's why I'm trying to be as sociable on the YouTube comments, on Patreon, in the chat rooms, on Twitter. I mean, obviously you don't see me tweet all that much, but if you contact me, I respond back every time. You know, a lot of you had a great laugh last week, and a lot of you out there DM me too. You know, one of the biggest insults that I think anybody could do is when someone like you goes out of your way to ask me a question, whether it's Twitter or YouTube or Patreon or the chat room. And instead of me answering your question, I just hit the like button or the thumbs up. That's not what I wanted. I asked you a fucking question. Do you think Cesaro could possibly win the Royal Rumble? But I don't give a shit if you like the question or not. I want an answer. So the least I could do is to really, you know, hang out with all you guys and mingle and talk and socialize. So, but thank you, Kappa. I really do appreciate that. I think I said capo. Capo is an Italian term, you know, with the mafia. Capo. Kappa the Great. Thank you very much, my friend. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Will Lenny win the Rumble? I tell you, man, seriously, for all of you out there that have enjoyed the last 2 weeks on Thursday, I'll say this about Lenny. As whacked out as that guy is, and you still haven't seen anything yet, let me start pulling and editing a little bit of some of the other hours of stuff I have. It gets 10 times more disturbing. But I will say this. How this man is still alive, and he's got to be around 79, 80 years old, because this guy was pushing his 60s, you know, when that conversation went down to Mass Maniac. So the fact that he is still alive and kicking and moving around, God bless him, man. He's a whacked out motherfucker, but he's still kicking. You got to give him credit. Now, let's talk about something that is soon to be, I don't want to say dead, but it's going to be, they are going to pull the plug. I'll probably have a longer conversation about this, maybe Monday with Mish. I don't know. I don't know how Mish really views Wednesday Night Wrestling, you know, because I don't talk to him much about AEW or NXT. We do talk a little bit about some of the individual wrestlers. But in case you haven't heard, NBC made a huge announcement today that NBC Universal is going to close NBC Sports Network, and they're going to move some of their sports programming, like the NHL, and what was the other thing? Was it the Premier League? There was something else too. I don't know if it was car racing, but bottom line is NBC is moving a lot of this sports programming. Oh, it was hockey. I almost said NHL and hockey. McFly, wake up. But they're going to USA Network. Now, I look at NBC's schedule earlier today of what dates, what days of the week they air a lot of the sports programming in the past. Trust me when I tell you, the NHL is not going to change schedules, and because NXT is on Wednesday nights. So, obviously, they have some other cable channel, that they could go to. But for the most part, right now, they're going to the USA Network. That is going to put NXT's programming in an interesting situation, because if you remember in December, one of my predictions was that by summertime, AEW or NXT will be off Wednesday nights. And my original thinking is that AEW goes to Tuesdays or goes to Thursdays. And the reason why I thought more the possibility of Thursday is because Tuesday does have Impact Wrestling. Tuesday does have AEW Dark. And when you look at how WWE films, they can go to Thursday. And that might actually be a better fit. But Tuesday or Thursday, it could very well end up being the future home for NXT. But let me also say this. And again, a lot of people quick with their comments, but I don't think they researched what days of the week some of this programming happens. Thank you very much, Rocky, Austin, Mark, NASCAR, 316 MMA. I almost thought it was 316 Mama. I thought it was 316 Mama. Oh, Jay Carlos, what's up, my brother? I'll talk about you in a second. And by the way, your prize yesterday, I mailed it out today. So you might get it tomorrow, probably Monday. Next Thursday. A lot of you asked me last night, DT, are you going to show us the prize? And I said, I'm going to go to my office today and I'm going to bring it home. And you know me, I always keep my promise. So for all of you out there, if you join me next Thursday night, we're going to do another contest. It's going to be the Who Am I, just like we did last night, which was awesome. Last night's Who Am I was Casey Catanzaro. Next week, I haven't figured out who I'm going to do yet, but the prize next week is this. And as you will see, it is Beckett authenticated. Here is the card with the matching serial number. Yeah, you can see. Yeah, there we go. All right. Maybe if I move it back. So you go on Beckett's website, because if you go on eBay, you look up Ronda Rousey memorabilia, almost all of it is MMA photos, random pictures taking. It is almost impossible to find Ronda Rousey signing in her WWE gear. So you're a Ronda Rousey fan. Maybe you don't like her now because she revealed her food freezer and her vegetables. Put it on eBay. Do whatever you want. But, so that is going to be the prize next week. Somebody live next week is going to win that. So I put that aside. And, by the way, as I mentioned yesterday, it arrived. Chris Candido's documentary biography, written by his brother Johnny, and another author, Cosper. Oh, John Cosper. John and Johnny. It almost sounds like a corny comedy film. John and Johnny. But this is the first book that I am going to read in 20 years. I've started books, but I've never finished them. I'm reading this one cover to cover. I'm going to enjoy it tremendously. And I will have Johnny on in about, I would say probably 2 weeks. Talk about the book, talk about some Chris Candido stories. We're also going to pay tribute to a few other fallen comrades that we were friends with as well, like Balls Mahoney and a few others. It's good. Believe me when I tell you, I'm going to enjoy this because you know me, I don't do interviews. I don't sit there like, what's your like year? What's your food? What's your color? What's this? What do you think about this? Like Chris Van Vliet, I don't do interviews. I don't consider this an interview. This is a conversation. Conversation amongst friends. Are we close? No. But Chris Candido is a friend. Johnny Candido is a friend. We're just going to have a nice conversation. The cool thing about it is when you're friends with people, you don't need to research. I mean, obviously, I want to get some stuff down pat to make sure I got my dates right and everything like that. But most of it is going to come from here and from here. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, that's my Chris Van Vliet impersonation. I like Chris Van Vliet. I have nothing against the guy. I used to dislike him, but I understand the method of his madness. And that's the reason why he gets all the great interviews, because he is it's a very comfortable interview. It's a very easy interview. Ryan Satin just did a great interview with Roman Reigns. Have you heard anybody talking about it? No, everybody's talking about The Undertaker on Joe Rogan. Roman Reigns just did a kick-ass interview with Ryan Satin. But because people out there don't like Ryan Satin, they don't talk about it. A lot of people have you seen virtually anybody talk about it? And that's terrible, because that's what I used to say a long time ago when I used to break news like 15 years ago or so, and a lot of websites would never report the news that I broke, even though over and over it was right. I compared it to, like, if, let's say, CBS TV doesn't like ABC TV, and let's say there's like an 8-alarm fire, and ABC is the only TV crew to be at the fire. People die, just a tragedy. And CBS doesn't report the fire and the tragedy because ABC were the only ones there. That's when people do that, they are not reporters. They are not journalists. They are jerk-offs. So, yeah, Undertaker. I mean, you guys want to talk a little bit about that now? We could talk a little bit about Undertaker now, and then we could talk about SmackDown. Because SmackDown, as far as the Royal Rumble, we didn't get much progression today. I mean, Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns is still in the books. They're giving that little bit of suspension of disbelief that maybe Nakamura has a shot, maybe Cesaro has a shot, maybe this person has a shot. The Baron Corbin, Dominic stuff, to me, was almost worthless, in my honest opinion. David, I haven't been on Patreon today. Yesterday, Kev Castle did his Castle Chronicles. At 1:30 in the morning, no file was sent to me, and I wasn't staying up until 5 a.m. to do it. I passed out by 2 a.m. I got up at 6. When I came home for lunch, like around 2:30, I put his show online for everybody to enjoy, and I went back to work. So I haven't been on there, but I will definitely look tonight. I promise you. So about 15, 20 minutes after I'm done with the show tonight, I'll go check it out. But we'll talk a little bit about Undertaker now. And then we'll talk a little bit about SmackDown, and I think we're pretty close. Yeah, I wanted to mention a little bit of a chuckle about what Will Hobbs said about WWE. But The Undertaker, look, I know this is going to annoy some of you out there. VJ, how do you get the Chris Candido book in Canada? 2 ways. Go on Amazon.ca and order it there. Or you can actually just email me your address and I'll send you one. Johnny sent me a few. I get one out to you. Undertaker was on Joe Rogan. 2, 3. Oh, yes, Left Twix. I did see the Virgil nut pick. We were talking about that last night. I'm warning all of you out there. I won't post the picture, obviously, but I'm warning all of you out there. If you don't want to seek this out, now you will, because it's like a car accident. You can't turn away. I'll describe what happened yesterday, because there was a little bit of unsure reports yesterday. Yesterday, or the day before, Virgil, Ted DiBiase's Virgil was on Instagram Live. He was plugging his Cameo account, and he was sitting down. It looked like it was sweatpants. I still don't understand. Like, I've worn sweatpants, and if you've ever worn sweatpants, you know that there's no areas around your crotch where anything could pop out. I mean, sweatpants is like pajamas. There's not even an area that you can open up if you got to pee. You usually got to pull your sweatpants down if you got to go pee. This guy must have had a hole, and he's sitting on the chair, and one of his nuts is just there. And first of all, I don't understand how he didn't feel a draft. Like, it feels awfully cold in here. But not only that, that looked painful. He was sitting on his nut, and it was visible. I'm not kidding. Mystery Man, who subscribes to Virgil's Cameo. I could picture people just for the fuck of it, you know, to have it. I have done a few cameos, but more people who were released by WWE last year early. It was just a little, you know, something. And all 4 times I told them I don't want a video in return. And 3 of them were like, okay, no problem. No video. And 1 person did a video anyway, which I thought was very kind of him. And you know what? Good for him, because he got his job back and everyone else didn't. But so I'm just warning you, if you want to go seek it out, to look at that still shot of Virgil, by all means. It's not disgusting, but if you're under 18, don't. Just don't. So anyway, Undertaker and Joe Rogan. I've said this before, and I don't want to upset anybody who are huge fans, but I don't listen to Joe Rogan. I don't watch his stuff. I'm not a fan of it. I don't dislike the guy, but I'll tell you, his interview with Undertaker is a good example why I don't like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan gets the Phenom on, the Undertaker. If you go back a couple of months, might have even been December. I do my research. December. Undertaker hung out with Joe Rogan, Jesse James, and I don't remember who else. I'm talking to you. I'm not looking at notes. I don't remember who the other person was. Maybe someone in the chat room remembers. That's cool. I can look at the chat room either here or here because you're both on the screen. And obviously, if a super chat comes in, then they are, oh, wait a minute. How do we do that? Oh, I know why. I know why. Because we got to do this instead. And then super chat washes it away. That's how it works. Okay. So Undertaker was with Joe Rogan in December. I don't believe the interview was done in December. A couple of people actually said to me, DT, how do you know it wasn't done in December? Why would Joe Rogan be hanging out with The Undertaker in December? Well, I don't know. But they didn't record this interview, you know, a couple of weeks earlier. Or maybe they did. But check this out. This is why I don't like Joe Rogan all that much. It's not the only example, but here's a good one. Undertaker has had a 30-year herald career. Now, from what I understand, Joe Rogan has not always been, you know, the biggest wrestling fan. But me, if I'm interviewing someone, let alone a host like Joe Rogan, you need to do your research, a little bit of it, some of it. I don't know who this other guy that was there yesterday, but he was a wrestling fan. I got to put my glasses on because I know somebody's going to mention his name. Who was the guy with Joe Rogan and The Undertaker when I watched this thing yesterday? Seriously, I think if Undertaker, what did Taz say last week to Excalibur? Did you ever play the skin flute? Is that what he said? I think if Undertaker told that guy, you want to play the skin flute? I think he would have done it. What's his name? That wasn't Tim Tebow. Come on. Nobody knows the guy's name? Okay, that sounds right. Tony Hitchcliffe. Joe Rogan asks Undertaker, 30 years is a long time. And he's basically asking Undertaker, anybody else, you know, done like a 30-year career and still? Now, immediately I thought Jericho. And Jericho has had 50 times more matches than The Undertaker in the last 10 years. And this jerk-off, and I say this politely, this jerk-off starts rambling off that, you know, nobody, Undertaker, he's 15 years ahead of everybody else, and he's throwing people off 16 feet cells and everything like that. I'm like, wait a minute. He's had a 30-year career and throwing people off a 16-foot cell? First of all, Mick Foley's was in the late 90s, which was less than 10 years in his career with the WWF at that time. This guy was pandering to The Undertaker so bad that I just want to, there's just something about him. What I wanted to do? I wanted to take this towel. You ever do this? You wet the towel and then you flick it like this, and you flick somebody like with no shirt on and it just leaves like a welt. That's what I wanted to do to that guy's head. But this is why, a great example, I don't like Joe Rogan. He actually asked The Undertaker, when was your last match? You mean to tell me this guy didn't even bother to look up or ask this geek in the corner beforehand his last match, AJ Styles? He actually says, when was your last match? Oh, I did something in April, like a theatrical thing. I'm like, motherfucker, that's WrestleMania, that's AJ Styles, a big deal. And you're just brushing it off. And I'm like, did you do any goddamn research at all? I thought that was so disrespectful. I thought it was disrespectful, in my opinion. So I don't like Joe Rogan. I totally respect anyone else that does, but little things like that, even the DDP stuff, like Undertaker reveals like he's cool with DDP, and Joe Rogan is focusing on DDP's yoga and this and that. And I'm saying to myself, toxic storyline, Sarah, shut the fuck up. This guy didn't have a clue. So that's why I didn't like it. But what I am going to talk about from the interview is two things. One of them is triggering the masses. And I think a lot of people out there totally missed what The Undertaker was saying. Now, I did pull quotes, so I want to read you specifically what The Undertaker said. First off, the comment that a lot of people are talking about is The Undertaker said that the current product is kind of soft, and he'll probably get in trouble for what he said, but he says that he just he feels that today's product is soft, it's stale, he can't get into it. I mean, it's funny because and this is where you see backstabbing, two-faced journalists. When you say it, and I say it, and other people say it, we're just haters of the WWE product. Oh, unless we've laced up our boots, who are we to fucking say this? Now you got one of the biggest stars in WWE history saying the same exact thing. And now everybody's like, well, he's right. That's number one. They talked about steroids as well. And Undertaker says that he is shocked. He's shocked at how some people look today. And he says, back in the day, there was steroids. Undertaker revealed he did steroids. He says he doesn't understand today because there's some big motherfuckers completely cut up. And he said he didn't even think he could get that way while on steroids. They showed the picture of Braun Strowman currently right now. And Braun Strowman really, Undertaker kind of dodged the topic a little bit. But he says, before I switched my contract, now he's not a talent wrestler anymore. He's a legend. He used to only work 2 to 3 times a year, but he was under a regular contract. And he said that you would have to take 4 mandatory piss tests and 2 blood tests every year. They usually got you at the end of the year, and they would tell him, go to the lab and take a piss test. He hasn't been in the ring in 6 or 7 months, but they would look at him and say, oh, we forgot about him. And they said that a lot of the tests were totally random. And he brings up the wellness program. Okay, fine. No real issues there. They talked about CM Punk, and Undertaker felt that it was a little bit late in CM Punk's life at his age to try to venture into this. But if this is what he wanted to do, he respected it. Obviously, Undertaker is a big UFC fan. But the comment, 2.5-hour interview, and Undertaker was great. I'm not criticizing the interview. You could see Joe Rogan did no research. He was depending on Goof in the corner to basically be his savior with some of the stuff. But the comment that is triggering a lot of people is this. Undertaker said, and I quote, "In that era of guys, those were men. I remember," then he says, "you go into a dressing room nowadays, and it's a lot different. I remember walking into my first real dressing room, and all I saw was some crusty fucking men. Half of them had guns and knives in their bags. Shit just got handled back then. Now you walk in, and there's guys playing video games and fucking making sure they look pretty. It's evolution, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I just like those eras. I liked it when men were men." I invite you to go do a little social media search, a little Google search. People triggered beyond belief. Now, Xavier Woods, I think Xavier Woods probably shouldn't have made this comment, because 99% of these websites ripping The Undertaker right now are including Xavier Woods' tweet. Xavier Woods said, and I quote, in response to what The Undertaker said, "I wouldn't be the person that I am without the guidance and lessons of a few key people from the previous generation of wrestling. They taught me about the business to save my money, and that having video games in the locker room is healthier than having," and he erased what he was going to say, probably guns, knives, whatever it is. And he thanked the guys. So what a lot of people are doing right now is they're accusing Undertaker of like toxic masculinity. They're accusing The Undertaker of making fun of the wrestlers today because they play video games. And I posted in the preview for this week's show a picture of The Undertaker, a screenshot. And look, before anybody says to me, "Why did you post a screenshot with his daughter?" Well, I took that from the YouTube channel of WWE, who had the video of The Undertaker, Michelle McCool, and their daughter playing video games on the couch. WWE had that shown for millions. I took a screenshot of what WWE was playing. Otherwise, I would never have posted it. But I have no problem of what Undertaker said. And I'm going to explain it in a way. This is just my opinion, but I'm going to explain it in a way where I will, in my opinion, show you why a lot of these people really getting triggered over this are wrong. And I have a feeling, not just because you enjoy the shows, but I have a feeling almost all of you out there are going to agree 100% with what I'm about to say. In my opinion, Undertaker is not criticizing people today for playing video games. When Undertaker said that he prefers to be in the locker room where men were men, something that everybody that got upset totally missed. The Undertaker is approaching 60, before you know it. Undertaker no longer wrestles. Undertaker, when he had his crew, some of them are now deceased. He doesn't hang out with these people anymore. His career is pretty much over. You, me, anyone out there, as you get older, you miss the days when you were a teenager, when you were in your 20s. I tell stories about when me and my friends used to go to clubs in the late 80s, early 90s. Now, do you think, even if I was that age now in 2021, do you think that I would do half the things that I did back then? I wouldn't dare do it. I wouldn't dare say half the things I did back then. You miss it because it's a part of your childhood. When you reminisce about wrestlers like Eddie Guerrero, and you reminisce wrestlers Hulk Hogan when he was in his prime, the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, ECW, anybody, CM Punk 10 years ago. When you reminisce about days when you were a lot younger, when you used to go with your friends to wrestling events, or you would go out to clubs, or you would go here, go there, it's fond memories. It's happy thoughts. And then you think about today, and it is a little bit sad and depressing that you don't do those things anymore. So Undertaker is not insulting the men of today, saying, oh, because they play their video games, this and that. Undertaker misses the environment, the climate. If he went into a gritty locker room right now, I mean, it might bring a tear to his eye, because it gives him flashbacks of when he was young and he used to hang out with his friends, have a beer in the locker room, this, and that. Back then when you had knives and guns, this is when wrestling, in a lot of areas was still, the cat was not let out of the bag. You look at Memphis wrestling, you look at when the Gangsters were wrestling down south in the mid-90s, and some of the craziest death threats that were going on. You got to think of that era. It's not like, oh, it was cool to bring guns or knives, but you got to understand why people did that. Because people took wrestling so seriously, and they believed what they were seeing was so real that wrestlers were afraid they would be jumped. Roddy Piper, look, do you remember his injuries, getting stabbed? This person gets shot at. This is why they did it. It's not that they were more masculine at that time. It's just Undertaker is reminiscing about the time when he could still do what he could do. And any of you out there, you get into your 30s, you get into your 40s, you get into your 50s, you have a high school reunion. High school reunion, even if it's a 10-year reunion, you see a lot of friends you haven't seen 10 years. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care what you identify with. You'll probably shed some tears because you miss. Oh, remember when we went and we did this with the football? Remember we did this in the cafeteria? Remember when we threw that person in the locker? And you reminisce and you miss it. You wouldn't do the things you did back then, but you still miss it. It's a part of your history. That's why The Undertaker was so upset. That's why The Undertaker was saying, oh, give me a locker room like that, because that's the climate, the environment he grew up in. All of us. That's why even when Mike Tyson had his match, we talked about it yesterday, I was like this, please don't embarrass yourself. Please don't embarrass yourself. Because Mike Tyson was a very important part of me growing up and being huge into boxing. Yes, a lot of his behavior was disgusting. I'm not saying that it wasn't. But when at his age now, and after all of these years and straightening out his life, and then going back and taking it seriously and knocking it out of the park, you get a little choked up because I miss. You don't understand. I still remember when he lost to Buster Douglas. I still remember driving around the park over and over and over with the radio on, and me and my friends listening. We couldn't hear the match because it was on pay-per-view, but you would have, in my neck of the woods, it was WFAN. You would have the commentator say, okay, the round just ended and Mike Tyson won the round 9-8, or whatever it was. That's what you got. So you remember all these things. It brings back memories. That's why Undertaker said what he said. He's not condoning what happened yesteryear and disrespecting the people of today. Plus, I mean, when I grew up in the 80s as a kid, we played Atari, we played ColecoVision. Later on, we played Nintendo, we played Sega, Sega Saturn, Sega CD, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox, Vectrex. I mean, we played everything. That kept us out of trouble. I lived one block away from a park, and a lot of times in the afternoon, you'd have a bunch of people smoking weed. My mother knew, and she bought us video games. That was her way of trying to, bribe us to stay home. So what Undertaker said, I don't think anyone out there should be upset at it at all. I don't think anybody should be upset at it at all. I don't think any wrestler should take it personal. I don't think anybody should call Undertaker out of touch. I mean, the cheap shots are, well, could you blame Undertaker? He supports Trump. You see, he's wearing a Blue Lives Matter. That's the garbage that is floating around, not from one whack job. 1, 2 whack jobs, you just ignore them. But when you see it over and over and over and over the last 48 hours, all this shit thrown Undertaker's way because he's just flashing back to when he was a young wrestler and misses those days. That's all he was doing. And I think some people took it way, way too out of hand. Seriously, man. Seriously. So I recommend, if you're going to ask me, should you go out and check it out? If you like Joe Rogan, even if you don't like Joe Rogan, I would say watch it. I enjoyed it. But you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, how Joe Rogan was not prepared. I mean, took virtually no notes, and that kind of rubs me the wrong way, because you think back, even when Undertaker was a locker room leader, somebody wears the wrong color shirt, they're in wrestler's court. The fact, and I've brought this up too. When I first got the privilege of doing a little bit of wrestling for some indie promotions, one thing that I always talked about is when you went into the locker room, it didn't matter how big the star was or how small the star was. You were taught to walk up to everyone. Hey, how's it going? My name is Anthony. Hey, how's it going? This is that. Hey, how's it going, Don Tony? Hey, how's it going? And you walked up to every single person. It didn't matter if it was Scott Steiner. It didn't matter if it was Scott Schmuck. It didn't matter if it was Abdullah the Butcher. It doesn't matter if it was Abdullah the Bodega owner. You did that to everybody. And if you didn't, especially the more veteran people, they would approach you and they would confront you and they would, get pissed off at that. So I could only imagine, and maybe Undertaker didn't feel this way because it's Joe Rogan, but the fact that Joe Rogan didn't even know what Undertaker's last match was, which was a pretty fucking big deal. We're in the middle of COVID last year. There wasn't like tremendous numbers of events going on at that time. The fact that he didn't even know that, to me, really struck a chord with me. But, so that's that. But very quickly, Will Hobbs. All right. Will Hobbs was on the AEW Unrestricted podcast. And Will Hobbs is getting a little bit of a buzz right now because of something he said about WWE. All right. During the podcast, he was talking about how he got a tryout match for the WWE back in 2016. Once he appeared in AEW, WWE rang his phone and wanted, they were interested. Now, for those that don't know, Will Hobbs came up in wrestling a little over 10 years ago. I'd say about 12 years ago. So I don't want anybody to think that Will Hobbs only started wrestling a couple of years ago. Will Hobbs, you go on YouTube, there's a lot of matches, and he's wrestled some pretty big names. There's actually a pretty cool match on there against Jeff Cobb, which I've seen not too long ago. But Will Hobbs has a little bit of a resume out there. Was Will Hobbs the most polished person? No. Was he very, very raw? Absolutely. But Will Hobbs, ruffled some feathers because he made this quote. The WWE tryout was good. They said, we don't have anything for you right now. Remember, this was 2016. Years later, the carrot dangled in front of me, and I pretty much told them, fuck you. Right when I appeared on AEW, you want to be like, hey, remember me? The way I was raised, I don't have time for that shit. I'm not boo-boo the fool. I like that. As my grandmother would say, hey, we've been thinking about you and we're interested in you. No, fuck you. Ain't no sucker. I'd rather you tell me 100% no than try to bullshit me. So We don't know exactly who he said that to in WWE. But I tell you, I don't blame this guy to an extent, because that's what WWE does. And just think back, FTR. Remember when FTR re-signed their deal? And you remember everybody was saying, oh, they got paid all this crazy extra money because so they don't go to AEW, or this person got $300,000. Remember all that stuff? So this is obviously, last year, because Will Hobbs started in AEW around, the middle of 2020 for the most part? I mean, that's pretty much when he started kicking it in a little bit. And I'll say this, in hindsight, when Will Hobbs first was brought up to the main roster, you remember they put him right in the middle with like Moxley, and they were going to do a 6-man tag, but I think Lance Archer had COVID and it was all scrapped and they had to change things around. Will Hobbs stood out like a sore thumb. It just felt like he was being thrown in there with no meaning whatsoever. But I will tell you, even though I cannot stand what they're doing with Team Taz right now, Team Taz is afraid of a 61-year-old man with a plastic bat. Team Taz runs away. Seriously. If they were mice, Sting is like, put it this way, this is how bad it looks. And this has been happening week after week after week after week after week. Team Taz is in the ring. We're going to beat up Darby Allin. And because snow starts coming down, they leave the ring. They run away. They're like hungry mice in the middle of the ring about to eat all this cheese. And a 300-pound overweight, 21-year-old cat comes out, didn't even enter the room. You just hear meow, and they fucking book. That's how AEW has treated Team Taz. That's why, even though it doesn't feel like there's any way possible that Sting is losing the street fight that they're going to do, but it almost feels like you've put Team Taz in a situation where they have to win it. Lee, am I wrong? I mean, I know that's kind of extreme, but am I wrong? I mean, you go back and you look at the last 3-4 weeks of Team Taz. There was actually one episode where every single member of Team Taz was in the ring, and snow starts coming down, and the screen shows Sting, and you hear Shivani, Sting! And I'm looking at the ring, I'm like, where did they go? Which way did they go, George? Which way did they go? I'm like, where'd they go? I mean, they're not afraid of snow. It looks so bad. And if I noticed that, a lot of other people out there noticed that. With that said, I think Will Hobbs has done just fine on the main roster. I just wish he would stop some of that sometimes. It's goofy. I understand he's supposed to come across as an angry man. I'm a bad man. But I think it's a little too much. So, anyway. I don't know. I don't think I'm wrong. But hey, if you think I'm wrong, speak up, comment section, whatever you want. But I will say this, just like I said the other day with the Wardlow interview with Busted Open Radio, go check out Will Hobbs on the AEW Unrestricted podcast. I liked it. I mean, it actually, after it was done, I kind of like Will Hobbs a little bit more, and not because he told WWE, fuck you. I like him a little bit more. So, anyway, with that said, I will talk about it on Monday with Mish. But just to give you a little bit of info right now, next week, WWE is doing the Superstar Spectacle. It is going to air on the WWE Network Tuesday, 9:30 in the morning. It is going to air in India at 8 p.m. on IST. And I do have some of you out there that do live in India, so if you're not aware, something tells me everybody there is buzzing about this, because it doesn't look half bad. It's going to be on Sony 10.1, Sony 10.3, and Sony Max. I think they actually were taping part of it today. Now, for those that haven't followed this, because I've had a few people send me DMs, no, they're not going to India. I think they have some talent that are in India, and probably some footage is being filmed from there. But for anyone out there that thinks this is just going to be a show with wrestlers from India, no, they're actually advertising Drew McIntyre, Ric Flair, Charlotte Flair, which means Lacey Evans will be on, Dolph Ziggler, Rey Mysterio, AJ Styles, Cesaro, Nakamura, Bayley, King Corbin, Natty, Ricochet, The New Day, and then from India, oh man, I hope I don't butcher these names. I'm sorry if I do. Guru Raj, Dilsha Shanky, Giant Zanjir, Kavita Devi, Jeet Rama, Indus. I just realized that. That's news. Indus Sher is going to be appearing. When was the last time we saw Indus Sher? When one of those dumb motherfuckers takes a picture of Keith Lee winning both belts and post the spoiler on social media. I think we mentioned it Wednesday. Nothing against him personally, but how stupid. We have to come up with the Brain Dead Award, like the Matt Riddle, like Bro Award, like the most stoned, dumb thing you could possibly do. I just can't picture somebody like them in that position working for the big time, and you get the privilege of seeing history before we do, and your first thought is, oh man, let me take a picture and post it on the net. How does it even go through your mind? I tell you the truth. I think whoever trained them and brought them into the business should have gotten some type of ramification if they worked for WWE. But even just common sense, how do you do that? But they are going to appear. I just noticed that now. Okay, all right. Bollywood Boys, Jinder Mahal. Believe it or not, I don't see Great Khali on this list. A lot of people were saying originally, well, like I said, I'm going to get more news, and I'll talk about it Monday with Mish, and any other information. I will look it up. I mean, I'm a little surprised. Yeah, Psycho says Khali is the GM. People brought up Tiger Ali Singh. You know what? You know what I think it is? I think what the list they're showing are wrestlers who are active right now. Tiger Ali Singh, Great Khali, like they're more like they would be similar to what William Regal is. Yes, I know Ric Flair doesn't wrestle, but Ric Flair is currently a talent on the TV program. So I think that's the reason why you don't have Khali on this list, or Tiger Ali Singh, or some others. So I wouldn't read into it all that much. That's probably the reason, So I did not see Sanjay Dutt on this list either. So I'll tell you, I would love for him to do another match. And speaking of that, I really didn't think Adam Pearce was going to be taking on Paul Heyman tonight. I figured Roman Reigns was going to come out and kind of go at it with Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce obviously cannot wrestle a match. That is why the match at Royal Rumble is not happening. But, having a little bit of physicality, I mean, he's not, 95 years old on the verge of being crippled that, oh my God, if I just go like this, then I'm going to break a bone in my neck or something like that. He's not that fragile. He's not an egg, but, we got an interesting little swerve at the end, and the theme tonight was card subject to change. But let's talk a little bit about SmackDown tonight. We really don't have to, I'll give you the overall scope, and if you want to go check it out, by all means, check it out. Overall, I thought SmackDown was a decent show tonight. It set up parts of the Royal Rumble. Reginald, we talked about it before. What is it? Cirque du Soleil? Is that what it is? For anybody out there that doesn't know Reginald's background, the gentleman who's with Carmella, go check it out. You'd be pretty impressed. So that guy is catching on to, he doesn't have a long wrestling career. It is extremely short. Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil. I say du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil. You know what I'm talking about. Google it. That's why I have the chat on the screen right now so people could see it and go Google it. But, I thought it was pretty cool to see, what he was doing over there. I mean, in the end, they were not going to have him beat, Sasha Banks. But Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, they head out to the ring, and you have a very loud, piped-in, you suck chant. You suck, you suck, you suck. We've already discussed that 1,001 times, and this is why you should definitely go check out the interview Ryan sat and did with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns talks about wanting to turn heel. Roman Reigns thought, because of the current situation with COVID and not having live fans, he thought this was the right time. You might remember, I think a week or two ago, you and I had this conversation that would Roman Reigns, as the current heel, would it have worked if there were live fans in attendance all year long last year? May not, because some of that, the promos he was cutting, all you had was that generic soccer noise playing in the background. You go into an arena, what? Yeah, fans get on it, but, fans could have dictated this a lot differently. But because we're in COVID, we're in special circumstances, this is what we have right now. One thing is for certain, WWE, especially that they're planning to have up to 30,000 fans at WrestleMania, and I expect to go. The only reason why, the only couple of reasons why I wouldn't go is if something personal would happen with my family, or if something with work that I had some really important, customers. I already looked at my customers from 1 year ago, WrestleMania time, to see who renews at that time. But as of right now, I expect to go to WrestleMania. I will be fully vaccinated as well, so I don't have to worry about catching COVID. But, you remember, and I'm not saying I told you so. By the way, shout out to everybody who's with me live right now, because I see in the last few minutes, more and more people tuning in. Maybe somebody else's show just ended. I don't know. But I know most of you out there check the shows out on the archive. But, remember last year, and you and I ripped this to shreds. Remember those websites that said, remember this, WWE will never do house shows again? Just think how ridiculous that statement is. They'll never do house shows again. First of all, there's about 40 people on the NXT roster that they might as well just release. A lot of people think that it's just NXT TV and nothing else. I don't think they had any idea all the house shows that NXT did on the side as well. The house shows were always coming back. But you start with 30,000 fans at WrestleMania. This is going to build. Yes, WrestleMania is a very special event, but you're not going to portray tens of thousands of fans and then go back to LED screens again. In 2021, by summertime, you are going to see live fans and substantial numbers at wrestling shows. It's going to happen. And I don't want to get into all the politics, but we've talked about this before. Whether you like Trump or you like Biden, one thing I think we could all agree on is that Biden is going to do everything he can to take full credit of the vaccine. That's just the fact. 100 vaccinations, 100 million vaccinations in 100 days. I personally don't think it's going to happen, because you may not even have 100 million Americans that want to be vaccinated. But this is something I brought up Wednesday that no one ever thought about before. You, since last February, have heard people say, oh, when will the day that we could have 100% fans in attendance again? When will there be the day? And what I brought up Wednesday is that you look at Ring of Honor, you look at WWE before COVID, you look at other promotions out there, Impact Wrestling. 95% of the time, they never had sold out crowds. Maybe Impact in Canada because they had 500 seats and they all got filled. But how many times with a WWE house show? Oh, the building seats 10,000, they did 4,000. Look at the average attendance for WWE in 2019. So if WWE goes back and has 40% of a building filled, 50% of a building filled, that is what they were drawing before COVID. Sure, pay-per-views are more and special events are more, but for the most part, that's what they were getting. So when people say to you, oh, we're going to get, I can't wait till we're back 100% fans. What are you talking about? Before COVID, it was only 40 or 50%. See my point? You get 40% in a building for a lot of promotions, that's a good day. It's going to happen this year. What that means is you're now going to have live fans reacting to Roman Reigns. You're going to have live fans reacting to King Corbin. You're going to have live fans reacting to Rollins, Murphy, Aaliyah. You're going to have live fans reacting to, Goldberg. He only has 2 appearances this year, but you see where I'm going with this. You can't depend on spliced in, soundboards. Just having the crowd dictate however you want it. So it's going to be interesting. So they really got to go full force now because before you know it, a lot of that's going to change. So Roman Reigns comes out with Paul Heyman, and he brings up what happened last week with the swerve, with Kevin Owens signing the contract. And Roman Reigns is pissed off that Adam Pearce got out of the match because of injury. Roman Reigns says his back is killing him because he's been carrying this promotion on his back for years. Roman Reigns with a little bit more anger in his voice today. I don't know if anybody noticed that. And Roman Reigns teased that his back injury from carrying the company may keep him out of the Royal Rumble. Adam Pearce hits the ring. Adam Pearce is like, enough is enough. And then Paul Heyman tells Adam Pearce that you just insulted the tribal chief. Paul Heyman brings up that he knows Roman Reigns' family since he was 15. And Roman Reigns is like, you disrespect me, you disrespect Paul, you disrespect. And Adam Pearce is like, look, I could take Roman Reigns' shit, but I'm not going to take your shit. So Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns gives him the microphone. And what the storyline is tonight is that Roman Reigns wants Paul Heyman to hand Adam Pearce his ass verbally. How Paul Heyman could put someone down. Seriously, I wish Paul Heyman did cameos because trust me, I think I would have, for some people who I basically, a lot of you don't even know, just people in my personal life, people that I've come across, I would pay Paul Heyman cameo money just to cut a promo that basically tell these people, fuck you, go fuck yourself, That's it, out. So Roman Reigns gives Paul Heyman the microphone, and basically he's telling Paul Heyman, hand Adam Pearce's ass, verbally. Paul Heyman misunderstands, and Paul Heyman thinks that Roman Reigns wants him to challenge Adam Pearce to a fight, because if Adam Pearce thinks he's facing Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, it's a swerve, and Roman Reigns will come out and basically be the one to beat the shit out of Adam Pearce. That's going on in Paul Heyman's mind. So Paul Heyman, basically tells Adam Pearce, I'm going to kick your ass. They shake hands. The contract is verbally signed. We're going to have Adam Pearce versus Paul Heyman tonight. You knew that wasn't happening, but I wrote the quote down. I may not be a lawyer, but I know a synagogue that has a bunch of lawyers in it. I'm from New York, and I will kick your ass. No problem. We go to a break, and right when we're going to break, Sami Zayn comes out. This is the only screenshot I have from tonight's SmackDown. Sami Zayn comes out. Let's pull this chat for a little bit. Justice for Sami. He's got people like documentary, like filming him and stuff, and he feels he's being mistreated. He handcuffs himself on the barricades, and he's basically standing there. He's basically standing there. Now, he would get involved in a match later on, but we have Sami Zayn in the background, and now we have Asuka and Charlotte come out, and they're supposed to have a match against the Riot Squad with Billie Kay. Sami Zayn's in the background, which was kind of funny. They show Tamina and Natty in the back. I don't know what to say about that team, but anyway, basically what ends up happening is Billie Kay once again screws up for her team. She tried to distract the referee. Asuka nails Liv Morgan, who falls into Billie Kay, and then Charlotte Flair with the natural selection on Ruby Riott for the win, and Billie Kay supposedly cost them the match. Whatever, blah, 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 blah. In the back, Billie Kay's apologizing. The Riot Squad are frustrated. Billie Kay makes up for it. She's got them in the Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble. Like we talked about last week. Even though I never liked them as a team, but just, you know what? I will make a prediction. We will have an iconic, it's kind of a play on words. We will have an iconic moment in the Women's Royal Rumble. We will have an iconic moment. Although I don't like the Iconics, I never liked them as a tag team. Annoying as hell, but they're not doing much of anything with Peyton Royce. I just, seriously, just reunite them. Seriously, reunite them. Why, Darren, why is the Women's Royal Rumble funny? I mean, they're having a Women's Rumble. I mean, that's what it is. And, you know, a lot of people still think that Bianca Belair has a shot to win the Royal Rumble. So we have the Riot Squad in the Royal Rumble. Fine. Big deal. Daniel Bryan comes out to the ring, cuts a promo, does the annual speech that one wrestler always does, gets on the mic, how important the Royal Rumble is, and blah, 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 blah. Cesaro's music hits. He interrupts. He's going to win the Rumble. And I thought, okay, here's the annual tradition where you have 6 different entrance musics hit. This person comes out, no, I'm going to win the Rumble. This person's music comes out, no, I'm going to win the Rumble. This person comes out, I don't speak English. This person comes out, I'm going to win the Rumble. We only had 2 today, which was fine. Cesaro comes out, Ziggler comes out. Ziggler's a tag champ. We have an impromptu match, Dolph Ziggler versus Cesaro. And I tell you, again, 2 weeks in a row, we're going to say this. I'm liking Daniel Bryan's creative input. You could see it. My concern is once the Royal Rumble is over, yes, a Women's Royal Rumble as well, Darren. Once the Royal Rumble is over, will these wrestlers continue their winning ways? I'm not saying this bragging, but you remember the first week in January, we had a conversation here, and I said, why is WWE using Nakamura this way? Remember when I triggered some people because I imitated Nakamura, you know, his voice? He's so much better than that. And the week after, 2 weeks after that, I mean, he kicked ass, and it was awesome. I actually read in Meltzer's newsletter that Nakamura, you know, might have been considered, but it's not a lock, and he might face Roman Reigns. And I'm like, wait a minute. I would not mind Nakamura winning, but he won a Royal Rumble already. As much as I want Nakamura's push to continue, win some belts, you know, turn babyface and, you know, just kick ass for 2021, I just don't feel like WWE's going to do that. I feel once this Royal Rumble is over, you're going to see a couple of the people now that have some momentum. It is totally going to crash because WWE's history have done that. They did it so many years with Kofi. We would point that out. So I'm a little skeptical right now with Cesaro getting the win. I'm a little skeptical right now. But if it continues after the Rumble, I'm fine with it. Give me Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode versus Cesaro Nakamura for the tag titles. Street Profits tonight cut a promo. They basically praised Sonya Deville. I think give her like a fruit basket or something. And they want a title shot. And Sonya Deville basically says, no, until you are healed from your injuries, no. Continue being goofy in the back, but right now, let other people have a shot. The problem is, they didn't give anybody a shot. Let other people get a shot. Who? There's no tag matches made. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying right now, if you want to have opponents for Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, give me Cesaro and Nakamura. Give me them. And I wouldn't mind seeing them win the belts again. So Ziggler and Cesaro had a match today. A lot of fun. Very, very short. Cesaro with the neutralizer for the win. Next, we have Sasha Banks beating Reginald. Carmella's at ringside, drinking champagne. Sasha knocks it out of her hand. Reginald, at the beginning of the match, wants to give Sasha a flower. Sasha was going to slap him. He blocks it. And, again, the Cirque du Soleil. Did I say it right? I don't know. The Cirque du Soleil. How's that? The guy's talented, man. But again, his wrestling career is not, it's very short. I don't even know if he's wrestled a year. I mean, it's very short. But, I've asked a few people, hey, could this guy go? He actually could do a little bit. But, there's no hidden, footage of this guy having 4-star matches with people. But he's in a good position right now. Sasha Banks ends up beating him with the bank statement. And, this is going to continue into the Royal Rumble. Carmella and Sasha. I think once the Royal Rumble is over, the feud between those two would also be over. Let's see. We had Apollo Crews versus Big E for the IC title. And once again, we get bullshit finish. Basically, Sami Zayn, who was handcuffed up until now, removed the handcuffs, gets involved in the match. He basically hit Apollo Crews with the Helluva Kick, hit Big E with the Helluva Kick, and went to a no contest. I think the minute he hit Apollo Crews should have won by DQ. Why would the referee wait until the second kick? But that's how it went down, so technically it's a no contest, even though it's not. But you see what this is. This is just knocking off another week of Big E and Apollo Crews. Will it turn into a three-way? Possibly. But people out there, that's why I said last week, this idea that Apollo Crews is now a Paul Heyman guy, I'm not buying that. And I'm still not buying it. And especially, what it felt like looking back on it? When Paul Heyman or Roman Reigns is giving some advice for Apollo Crews, this is almost like when you had Mark Henry or MVP telling a wrestler in the back, you've seen a backstage segment once in a while, think about what I said. And it leads to nowhere. Yes, it was a hell of a kick. A Helluva kick. A hell of a Helluva. Say that fast 10 times, I dare you. A hell of a Helluva. Kevin Owens cutting a pretty cool promo in his car, saying that Roman Reigns pulled a couple of strings, couldn't be in the building, and he has initials on his knuckles, I think 4 of them. 1 or 2 might have represented his grandfathers. I think 1 was Pierre. Anybody remember the other names? And he basically talked about, some of his family members that passed, that battled, illness, and he will ever be forever disappointed that they didn't get to see him wrestle in WWE. And he learned from his family, never stop fighting, never give up. Kind of sounds a little bit like John Cena, but it's all good. He said that he will be the last man standing in the match with Roman Reigns. I've said this before. Kevin Owens is my favorite wrestler on SmackDown. Right now, he's my favorite wrestler on SmackDown. I know for a lot of you out there, it's Roman Reigns. I totally respect that. Kevin Owens, it's far cry from when he first came up to the roster. You remember? Owens always chewing all the time, chewing all the time, chewing all the time. Remember that? I mean, it was obviously a nasal thing, but man, that guy, and it's a shame because I always enjoyed his work as Kevin Steen. And when he came to the main roster, I mean, the stuff with Cena was awesome. But after that, it just felt like there was a little bit of a lull somewhere, but he won me over a long time ago. And VJ has no idea what I'm talking about. All right, let me just tell him very quickly. When Kevin Owens first came to the main roster, something that I noticed that he was doing repeatedly is even when he was in the ring, and I honestly thought it was nerves, but he would be in the ring, he would cut a promo, or he would be like standing around, and he would do something like this. And it wasn't chewing on gum. And he would be chewing, and I don't think it was, somebody back then said to me that he chewed gum because there was some issue with nasal or something. There was a legit medical reason behind it. But I thought it was a little corny. Now, this is when he first came up to the roster. And then I remember at that time, a lot of people said that the way he dressed, and he even talked about it on the WWE Network when they did that bio, that a lot of people, back then said that he looks like, back then when you're at like a pool party and there's like someone who is a little bit overweight that is around the pool that keeps his t-shirt on and has, like extra long shorts on. And he kind of fit that stereotype. And that was a shame. But he shut everybody up. Shut me up. I don't know. I don't think it was nerves, Austin. Back then, I thought it was nerves. And then people started telling me about, that he had some issues. I don't remember if it was nasal, but there was something going on. But Darren's telling me to take my shirt off. No, not yet. Not yet. I don't get paid Kevin Owens money, but soon. I mean, I'm not that embarrassed. I'll surprise you one day. I'll be fade to black. I'll be like this. Let me see. Well, we got to close. Oh, no. Actually, yeah, I could probably do this. I'll be like this. And when it comes on, I'll be shirtless for about 1 second. Not right now, though. Not right now. Bayley and Bianca Belair. Obstacle course. I thought we were going to get footage outside like the Bianca Belair segments. Remember when she was around those people and she's running and she's pushing tires? I thought we were going to get that. I thought we were going to get stuff like Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. Instead, we get a fucking tire and we get Otis and Chad Gable around ringside. But I will tell you, yes, Phil, the promoter, I agree 1,000%. We all knew Bianca Belair. Maybe we can use the EST in this case. We always knew that Bianca Belair was strong. I think she made a good case today that she is the strongest EST. They did a segment where Bayley had to pick up Chad Gable and walk across the finish line within a certain amount of time. Now, Bayley, obviously, they were being over dramatic with it. It's like she struggled to get over the line. As soon as she got over, she fell to the floor. Bianca Belair doesn't pick up Chad Gable. Bianca Belair picks up Otis and carries Otis. And when I saw that, all I kept thinking about was the fireman's test. Because I showed a lot of you a couple of weeks ago that back in 1991, I took the police test. And I scored a 98. I was supposed to be a cop. That was my father's dream. My father's dream was for me to be a police officer or a detective. Me, in 1991, I wanted to hang out with my friends at the park, eat, drink, get laid, and slice cold cuts. I disappointed him. He's not disappointed anymore because I've had my insurance business since 1998, even though it's struggling right now. But I was supposed to take the fireman's test. 1993, I was supposed to take the fireman's test. And I knew someone who was a fireman, and he started telling me, and you got to carry like crazy-ass dead weight in case you got to pick up somebody in a burning building. You got to walk them down. Now, just imagine Bianca Belair picking up Otis and having Otis on her shoulders. She's almost like a freak of nature. I mean, that blew me away. So the segment, although I expected to have more substance or, recorded footage, lot more fluff, it proved what it needed to do. And after it was done, Bianca Belair, wait a minute. Who was the basketball player that Corey Graves brought up? Oh my God, he was from the Detroit Pistons. Somebody will remember. I know the chat room will bail me out on this one. There's like a 3-second delay. Oh, who was the basketball player? Somebody's going to remember. Not Drummond. Drummond is from what you're talking about, Willis? Drummond. The hell's Drummond? Mr. Drummond. Blake Griffin. You see these people. We're talking about a basketball. Forget it. Bill Lambier. See, I always keep hope. Thank you, King. Bill Lambier. Corey Graves is Bill Lambier. For me, that was more Ravishing Rick Rude. When Ravishing Rick Rude, remember the pose down with him and the Ultimate Warrior, and they had that strong bar, and the Ultimate Warrior's like, and then Ravishing Rick Rude picked it up and just wailed Ultimate Warrior in the back of the head with it. That's what it reminded me of. Didn't remind me of Bill Lambier was badass. Bill Lambier would cheap shot people, but use a wrestling person, Corey Graves, please. But, okay, Psycho, thank you. Psycho Googled it, and Kevin Owens at that time, from a broken nose, had a little bit of blockage, maybe a deviated septum, and would chew gum, and the chewing of the gum would help him breathe. I knew shortly thereafter there was a medical condition, and I didn't make fun of it anymore. But, like I said, Kevin Owens is just totally, I could watch that guy's stuff all day long. And we know at Royal Rumble what the outcome is likely going to be. We know who's going to retain their title. But when you know how great Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns work together, I don't think we care all that much. It's just a matter of how we get to point A and point B. So, King Corbin takes on Dominic Mysterio today. John Sally was great too. John Sally was another badass motherfucker, man. John Sally was great. Before Corbin and Dominic Mysterio, Dominic is in the back with Ray. And Dominic's like, no, look, I got this. Because remember last week, Dominic interfered anyway, cost the match. And Ray is telling Dominic, look, if you don't get it done, then we're going to do it my way. Well, Dominic didn't get it done. King Corbin beats Dominic. Notice Corbin again. So Grant Hill's another badass. A little bit later, years later. But, Grant Hill was another great player. Absolutely. In fact, I see a lot of great players being posted in the chat room right now. No buffering left, Twix. No buffering. So, Corbin beats Dominic pretty handedly. To me, I don't know what the point of that match was. It almost felt like just to fill some time. But then we get the main event. We have Adam Pearce in the ring, wearing like a sweat jacket with his whole front chest exposed. Paul Heyman is coming down to the ring, walking pretty fast, kind of wrapping a tape around his fist. And they're playing it off that Paul Heyman slipped, trying to get into the ring. And Paul Heyman is like holding his leg. He's on the floor. And Paul Heyman is acting like he can't continue. And Adam Pearce is like, really, Paul? This is what we're going to get. And Paul Heyman looks at Adam Pearce, and on a microphone he goes, card subject to change. Because, as I told you earlier, Roman Reigns, the storyline was Paul Heyman was given the mic from Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns wanted Paul Heyman to hand Adam Pearce's ass verbally. Paul Heyman thought Roman Reigns meant beat him up, and it was going to be a setup so Roman Reigns could show up later and beat up Paul Heyman. So later on SmackDown, there's a backstage segment, and Paul Heyman is thanking Roman. He's like, you're smart, you're a genius, you're this, you're that. And Roman Reigns like, why? Paul Heyman's like, because, I got it, challenge Adam Pearce, and then you come out and you beat him up and this and that. And Roman Reigns like, no, I want you to hand his ass verbally. Roman Reigns like, I'm out of here. So people actually think that Roman Reigns has left the building. And Kevin Owens says he left the building. But neither one left the building. When Paul Heyman said card subject to change, Roman Reigns comes out, starts handing Adam Pearce's ass. Now we're thinking maybe Adam Pearce is going to take a major bump somewhere. But, it didn't happen because Kevin Owens' music hits. I don't even think his music hit. I think he came out with like a hoodie on and started attacking Roman Reigns. I did laugh at a couple of people online that were like, hey, Roman Reigns, his tummy looks a little bit soft. And the 3 people I saw say that, I immediately looked at their profile, and 2 of the 3 don't even have a picture of themselves. I'm like, can you imagine what their tummy looks like? But Kevin Owens starts beating the crap out of Roman. And by the way, Roman Reigns is in fucking jacked shape. All right. So if anyone out there that actually has the audacity to say that Roman Reigns is out of shape, I think some people intentionally do that because they actually feel good if they could get 20 people to just say to him, like, what are you, fucking stupid? Paul Heyman is awesome on the mic, man. That guy is just smooth as silk. Favorite guy on the mic. Love his stuff. Back when he was booking SmackDown, we got to remember, there were a couple of things that he was involved in, like the Al Wilson storyline. Not everything always was, hunky-dory with Paul Heyman. But, man, that guy is so great. He just compliments Roman Reigns, and it's going to be interesting if Brock Lesnar returns. It's going to be really interesting because would we see Paul Heyman being an advocate for Brock Lesnar and doing stuff for Roman Reigns? Do we tease a little bit of dissension on either side? We don't even know if Brock is returning. My prediction is Brock winning the Royal Rumble. A lot of people are starting to think The Rock will win the Royal Rumble. I think Brock wins the Rumble and does the reverse of last year. Last year, Drew won the Rumble, challenged Brock. I say Brock wins the Rumble this year, challenges Drew. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's just my thinking. I think they got to work out a deal with Brock Lesnar. I think they got to. They have to. Especially you just announced WrestleMania for 3 years. I truly think WWE is going to announce, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm not saying it's going to happen for this WrestleMania. We may have to wait a year for this announcement. But I think between now and the other 2 WrestleManias that they announced in California and Texas, I think WWE is going to do what they did with The Rock and John Cena not too long ago. Remember they announced that main event a year in advance? I think we are going to get something like that. I would not be surprised that they announce for either next year or maybe it's announced next year for the year after. But they may announce a year early Roman Reigns versus The Rock or John Cena versus Roman Reigns. I'm not sure as far as which match I'm leaning towards, even though The Rock versus Roman Reigns probably bigger. But I think we will see a match announced a year in advance. So we'll see. Yeah, I agree with you, David. I kind of lean towards the announcement being for Hollywood. It kind of just feels that way. But we will see. We will see. But that was your episode of SmackDown. Not a bad show. I mean, like I said, I don't think anybody really thought that there was a chance of Adam Pearce and Paul Heyman having a match. I mean, 15 years ago, you announced Paul Heyman against Bischoff or Bischoff against, I think one Paul Heyman versus Vince might have even been, but they're not going to do it at this stage in the game in his age. They're not going to embarrass him like that. So, but anyway, before I go, like I said, I don't have the quarter-hour ratings yet for AEW and NXT. Impact Wrestling did 147, which honestly, everyone, that is a terrible number. Coming off that pay-per-view and dropping compared to the week before, that's a lower rating than their average in 2020. I'm very curious to see what Impact's rating is going to be next week, because this week was a pretty damn good episode. It had a lot of hokey stuff, but at least we don't have to worry about this Johnny Bravo shit anymore. We don't have to worry about this Karate Man shit anymore. So we may see the AEW versus Impact storyline amped up a notch, especially because Tony Khan is standing around ringside at Impact. They need to work on that a little bit more. Impact should have security try to throw Tony Khan out, for being at ringside. Or try to throw him out and Tony Khan pays them off to let him stay, or bribe somebody. They need to take this a little bit further. Maybe they will. And I will say this. The reason why a lot of people are not talking about it, if you notice, is because there are a lot of podcasters and websites out there who claim that they just want to enjoy wrestling as much as possible, but unless the wrestler is named Roman Reigns or Drew McIntyre or something, they don't have any time of day. They don't spend time on it. That's why you see almost nobody talking about it. And that's a shame. That's a shame. People want diversity. People want a little bit different, programming. You got some options out there. When was the last time you saw anybody talking about, Ring of Honor or MLW or this promotion? Now, they don't talk about it. And that is terrible. So, like I said, Lee, yesterday, I think I said it yesterday, I figured out one of Impact Wrestling's biggest problems. They don't have their Vince McMahon. They don't have their Eric Bischoff. And they don't have their Tony Khan. They don't have their Dixie Carter. Don Callis is not the owner of Impact Wrestling. He is a figurehead there, and he's more of a stooge. But he's a stooge that is trying to get Impact Wrestling success, not AEW. They are missing their Bischoff or McMahon or Dixie Carter or Tony Khan. That is probably one of the biggest problems with Impact Wrestling right now, because who's going to come out and tell Tony Khan, get the fuck out of here? That's a big, big problem. So that's why they may need to do a storyline involving the ownership in Impact Wrestling. By the way, I'll talk about it on Wednesday. I don't have it in front of me right now. I want to get some more information on it, but I'll leave you with this. First off, AEW did 854 this week. NXT did 659. Both promotions, both shows went up almost 100,000 viewers. I think AEW might have went up like 102. NXT went up like 90-something. So wrestling this past Wednesday went up 200,000 viewers, which is a good sign. Ed Norholm would suck on TV. No, Ed Norholm comes off as a goof. I'm nothing against him personally. Nobody wants to see Ed Norholm on TV. Oh, whoa, gonna fart. But I'll say one last thing about this whole thing with Impact Wrestling and AEW and everything else. AEW just filed for a trademark, and I think it's Battle of the Belts, if I understand this correctly. Battle of the Belts. So now we're starting to think, are we getting into Kenny Omega Great Sasuke territory or Ultimo Dragon? I think Ultimo Dragon might be a better fit, where Kenny Omega is going to be holding 3, 4, 5 heavyweight championships. Battle of the Belts tell me we will see the Good Brothers versus the Young Bucks. We may see Moose versus Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega. We may see belts on the line. We may see NWA's Women's Championship thrown in there as well. So I'm going to get more information. We'll talk about that next week. And I'm a little intrigued with that. So Battle of the Belts. Keep that in your thought process, because in your memory banks, because that might end up, that's why I think the Impact storyline might actually turn this up a little bit. I think they really will. Jay Carlos, he doesn't even watch SmackDown or Raw. He just watches my stuff. And thank you. I really appreciate that, man. You know that I'm here always trying to do my best and just chatting like we all do. You know, no pressure, no stress, no, you know, it just no outside noise anymore. I vowed for all of you to not bring that noise into the shows anymore. And I honestly think I've done a decent job with that so far in 2021. I'm really staying focused. You guys and gals and me, and that's it. Don't let that outside noise creep in anymore. You know, honestly, I treat them like candles. You ever light a candle? What happens when a candle stays lit? It slowly burns and melts into nothing. And that's basically what's happened in 2021 with a lot of people out there. Made all these guarantees and promises and statements and resolutions and this and that. And you realize that all this stuff was just to get attention to themselves. And it's a candle slowly melting, and it's melting into nothing. Us, we're throwing fucking M80s at their asses right now. Right now, they're just like, boom, boom, M80s up their asses. Kurzabel. I made a mistake here. I think I said Kurzabel or something like that. Kurzabel, what's up? No, it's Kurzabel. What am I saying? Kurzabel. Or it could be Kira Zabel. No, I like Kurzabel. How long do I see Roman Reigns reign? No pun intended. How long do I see Roman Reigns keep his championship reign? I think he keeps it well beyond WrestleMania. Just like I said, Drew McIntyre will always be looked at as the COVID. How weird is that, man? Last year, I said probably about 40 to 50 times during the year, Drew McIntyre will be looked back at as our COVID champion. And the son of a bitch gets COVID. I don't wish him ill. I like Drew McIntyre. I think he's done a damn good job as champion. Under these circumstances, that guy has done his best, and I have no issues with Drew McIntyre at all. But it's kind of like ironic, you think about it. But Roman Reigns, he's got to carry over to live fans. Roman Reigns' character right now is fire, especially you're going to go back to live fans again, and that's paying fans. That's not freebies or comps. So you want the momentum for Roman Reigns to continue. So right now, I feel whoever challenges Roman Reigns for this belt, whether it's John Cena, Big E, Nakamura, Daniel Bryan, I don't care who it is, I think Roman Reigns is coming out of WrestleMania still your champion. So I say at minimum, summertime, maybe even longer. Maybe even longer. It depends. It depends on how far we're getting back to some type of normalcy from COVID. As of right now, I think Roman Reigns keeps the belt at minimum through the summer. So, yeah, I know, Benjamin. I'm not the best. Okay. He didn't clarify. So Benjamin said, Kira Z. Abel. Kira Z. Abel. Okay, so that's how I pronounce it. Kira Z. Abel. All right, I like that. Okay, cool. But yeah, I think Roman keeps it. I think he keeps it for a while. And Soulfly, what do I think? Oh, and I don't know if I emailed you. I got your address earlier. I emailed you. Don't write it here. Respond to my email. I think I needed your shipping name, so just email me back. Do I think AEW will win the Too Sweet trademark? Yeah, I do. I do. Because, I've seen magicians do this as rabbits with shades. I mean, think about it. Really. I don't think it's a big deal. And to see anybody fighting in court just so they could do this, I think they win this lawsuit. There's some lawsuits that have gone on over the years where I totally understand why somebody's suing. The one that I always remember is Jay-Z and DDP for this. Anybody remember that? I remember covering that in detail. I remember doing an episode once and covering that in detail, and halfway through my rant, I stopped and I'm like, why do I give a shit about Jay-Z and DDP suing over this after all of that? And I was like, whatever, and they ended up, I think, settling out of court. But no, I think AEW will win this. It's too generic. I think they get it. And honestly, even if they lose it, you do this, I'm going to get my lawyers on you. I don't think it's going to be that trivial. Now, I do believe they want to put it on shirts. I do believe they want to make foam hands. So they want to make merchandise with this stuff. That's the reason why I think this is even being fought in the first place. You're just doing it so wrestlers could go out and do this. They could do it anyway, and I don't think anybody would stop them. I mean, what are you going to do? Trademark fist bumps? So I think AEW will still win it, and I think even if they don't win it and just the lawsuit or whatever it is pulled, you'll see it almost immediately. I think they have shirt designs already ready to go. And the minute this is cleared up, you're going to see, oh, look in the store, this. That's what I think. So, but anyway, I am going to jet out of here. I have done this for 2 hours, which actually technically is the shortest show of the week, even though it was a little longer. But hey, we have great conversation, man. This is why I talk to some people off the shows about it. Like, you really got to tighten it up another half hour and stuff. But, we get into some decent conversation, and I see a lot of you hanging out still, and everybody's, into some great discussion. So I don't mind staying an extra 10, 20 minutes here and there. But I will tell you that I will be resting my voice this weekend. Going to do a little relaxing. And, and by the way, thank you all again for all the kind words and the well wishes. I don't want to, make this about me, but for those that maybe not tune into the other shows this week, I got the COVID vaccine on Tuesday. Myself, my mom, and my dad, we got the first shot. The second shot is scheduled for February 21st, which is a Sunday. So, I heard that the side effects for the second shot are much worse than the first shot. So we'll see what happens. But I will tell you right now, I feel about 95%. Other than a little slight headache here and there, and that just might be from not drinking enough water, all's good. All's good. So, yeah, everything is good. But, all right, so I'm going to get out of here. As always, like I say, if you enjoy the show, on your way out, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, which I know it's a broken record, but that does help me, and it tells YouTube that you enjoy the show and you recommend it to others. And if you're around Monday night after Raw, Mish and I will be here at 11:05 p.m. Eastern. By the way, I don't know the details yet. I sent a DM to Mish early this afternoon, and he had not responded as of showtime tonight. But someone had told me late last night, that something was up with him. I didn't know what it was, and then I DM'd somebody this morning, and they told me around lunchtime that his cat may have passed yesterday. And Mish, even though he's got that really rough exterior, he is a softie a little bit when it comes to animals. And I think he lost his pet yesterday. So I don't know the details. Like I said, I DM'd him, and as of showtime, he had not gotten back to me. So I hope everything is good. But some of you out there, okay, Lee is telling me, RCWR, he took his cat out of the hospital, and he's trying to get, so there is some good news. The cat is not passed on. He said he took his cat out of the hospital. Yeah, I'll let you all see it for yourself. Here you go. He took his cat out of the hospital, and he's trying to get it some meds and other stuff. Damn, man, that's rough. Seriously. I put my dog down, 5 years ago? Hardest thing I ever did in my life. I still get haunted at night. You have no idea. I talk about it a lot on Patreon. I don't talk about it over here. But you don't know what it's like. I think a lot of you do. You do know what it's like when you're like this with a pet, and they get put down, and then you have dreams for years, and you dream, and the pet is still around, and you wake up for a split second. You think that pet's still around, and then you get brought back to reality. I've woken up a few times crying. She's in the other room. I'm so tempted to bring her in here. She would tell you, but I don't think that's something they need to prove. I have woken up a few times in tears, and she'll say to me, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I'm like, No, it's okay. She knows why. I've had a discussion with her. It's rough, man. It's rough. I'm haunted still. In fact, not trying to get attention with this, but I think it was 2 weeks ago, we got on this subject with my dog on the Patreon show, and I started crying. Legit. It's a very painful topic for me. So if Mish happens to see this or hear this, my thoughts are with you, my brother. I don't ever want to hear like that with anybody's pet, whether it's a dog, a cat, an iguana, a fish. We're all in some way really attached to our pets. That's why I won't get another dog. You don't know what it's like, man. 6 years having a dog that's diabetic and having to get up. And I look back on it, even with the shows. I don't know how I did the shows on Mondays. Every day for 6.5 years, I would feed my dog at 4:30 in the afternoon and give him his insulin at 4:30 in the afternoon, which means I would have to feed him at 4:30 in the morning and give him his insulin at 4:30 in the morning. So I would finish these shows at like 1 o'clock, 1:30. I would go to sleep by 2:30, and within 2 hours, just when you think you're getting into a deep sleep, because my dog, after a while, his body, it's like a clock. He knew it was time to eat, and he would bark, and I would wake up out of a deep sleep, 4:30 in the morning, cook or reheat, give him his food, make sure he eats it, because you can't give a diabetic dog insulin without him eating first, and then trying to get back to sleep, and then salvage whatever you have until 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. Do that for 6.5 years. I still wake up a lot of days at 4:30 in the morning for no reason. So my thoughts are really with him, and for all of you out there, because I do see once in a while some of you writing on social media about having to put pets down, and I usually don't comment, not because I'm trying to be rude, but that's really raw when it comes to me, man. That's just, I have a hard time even typing it. So, but anyway, Darren, you get some sleep, my man. 5:14 in the morning where he's at. I can't even watch porn at 5:14 in the morning. So I can't thank you enough for not only supporting what I do, but hanging out with me for a few hours on a Friday night. It's been awesome. And I just absolutely appreciate each and every one of you out there. Even if we never talk, like I said earlier, I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot. So I'm going to get out of here. And if you're around Monday night after Raw, 11:05 p.m., join me right here with Mish. It'll be the last Raw before the Royal Rumble. We'll see what happens with Drew. We'll see what happens with Goldberg. We'll see what happens with Charlotte. Asuka, Alexa Bliss. That was bad Monday. See what happens with The Fiend, Randy Orton. So I think Raw will end up being a decent show. We'll see. We'll see. You never know. Maybe next week I could kind of change. Oh, wait. I forgot. Sorry. I might be able to change these moods a little bit. 2 weeks in a row. This is exactly how I felt about the wrestling shows this week. So let's see if that changes next week. But and don't forget, Royal Rumble. I'll be here doing a recap too. So I'm out of here, everyone. Much love as always. I'll catch you all Monday night after Raw. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Be careful. And all the best. Ciao.